It was something of an open secret in my family. A secret that could get you killed if you weren't prepared. In my family, there are always very specific rules about certain things. We cut our meat very small. We don't drink too fast. We don't go into water deeper than our waist. And we don't put our face in the water when we do. It's something you come to understand pretty quickly, or you don't live very long. I remember losing breath for the first time when I was 6, and it scared the hell out of me. It was a simple thing, but those are usually the things that trip us up. I had been out playing in the yard, the July heat beating down on me, and I was sweating profusely as I came pelting up to the hose pipe to the house. I should have gone inside to get a drink. Mom had told me that 1,000 times, but I was so thirsty. The water was cold and nice at first, running down my face as I took long drinks. I was guzzling before I knew it, drinking like a dog as my tongue stuck out. And that was when it happened. Suddenly I was coughing, gagging, but the more I coughed, the harder it became to breathe. It wasn't like I couldn't catch my breath. I felt like someone had their hands around my throat, and they were choking the life out of me. I was scared. A child of 6 isn't supposed to be scared like that. And as the little black spots started appearing in front of my eyes, I started to see something. It was like looking at a photo-negative person, an outline made real. It had long, spindly fingers, 3 times as long as a normal person's, and it had them wrapped around my neck as it throttled me. All I could do was look up at it, watching as it shook me slowly and firmly by the throat. I was blacking out, slowly dying in the clutches of this monster. But that's when I heard someone screaming from behind me, "Elgnarts, Elgnarts, Elgnarts." Just as quickly as it appeared, the creature was gone again. It had broken apart like smoke on a breeze, and my mother was holding me as I lay in her arms. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry. I told you to be careful. You always have to be careful. The Elgnarts is always waiting to get you." Back then, I didn't even think to ask her what the creature was. I was a child. Children believe in monsters. We don't question whether there are monsters or not. We question when they will come for us, or if we will be prepared. My mother had saved me, but she had also taught me how to save myself. I was lucky that day. Some members of our family are not so lucky when the Elgnarts comes for them. Despite the curse that followed us, I had a few siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, neither of whom made it to adulthood. I had 2 older siblings, Sam and Gabrielle, and 2 younger siblings, Nikki and Matthew, a boy and a girl of each. I was what you would call a middle child, but I wouldn't be for long. Their deaths were too much for my father. He died before I finished high school, but my mother lived on. It was like she couldn't allow herself to die, knowing that she had to protect her children. Then, just her child. Me. My sister was the first to go. She was older than me, 2 years older, and we often played together. I don't think she believed in this creature, but she had always been lucky. She didn't have a chance to see it, like I did. But when I was 8 and she was 10, she died very suddenly. I'm not sure if she believed then, but I believe that she saw the Elgnarts before she went. Mom was busy that day. My baby brother was less than a year old, and he needed a lot of care. My sister and I were home. My older brother was out with friends, and my younger sister was at our aunt's house with her daughter for a play date. and we were sitting around the house being bored. We were watching cartoons, lying on the couch, when we heard a sound that all children hope for. It was the gentle music of an ice cream truck. We both got excited, running to our rooms to see if we had any money, and we were out the door before our mother could even think to stop us. She was in the back, trying to get Matthew to sleep, and when the truck pulled up to the curb, we made our orders. Gabby got a bomb pop, and I got a Choco Crunch. I was eating slowly, taking my time as Mother had taught us to, but Gabby was excited. She had wanted a bomb pop all summer, but the ice cream truck didn't come down here very often. She was practically dancing on the sidewalk, dropping the wrapper beside the curb as the truck drove slowly up the road and away from us. She took a big bite, getting almost the entire tip of the bomb pop in one giant chomp, and I saw as her throat worked in an attempt to get it all down. She wheezed, her air cutting off as the ice cream bulged her throat. I got scared, watching her hands scrabble at her throat as she tried to breathe, and as her eyes got wide, I saw something in them that made me remember that day 2 years before. She was seeing it, the Elgnarts, and it was proving itself much more lively than she had believed it could. I couldn't see it, but I watched as something took hold of her throat. It pressed the sides of her neck, breaking the ice cream and sending it sliding down even as her windpipe was closed off by those treacherous fingers. A paramedic would later claim that the ice cream must have melted enough to slide down the rest of the way, but I knew what I had seen. I'd seen those fingers as they made indentions on her throat. I had seen her look of terror as it killed her. I stood there, fear gripping me like those fingers, and tried to make my lips speak its name. That's where my mom found us, me still trying to speak, and Gabrielle already dead in the street. I never forgot that day, the day I watched my sister die. It was something that stuck with me for the rest of my life. Sam went next, but it wasn't entirely due to a lack of caution. Sam, like me, had experienced something at a very young age, and he had seen the Elgnarts before our mother had made it go away. It had made him incredibly cautious. Sam didn't take chances. He cut his meat fine enough to eat without teeth. He drank most liquids with a straw, and he never took a bite big enough to choke him. He took showers. He didn't go into water that went over his knees, and he didn't put his face in the water. No, what killed Sam was his work ethic. He was 4 years older than me, and when I was 12, he got a job. He worked nights, wanting to buy a car, and he worked almost every day after school. He was coming home on his bike one night, going over the bridge that would take him into the residential area where we lived, when a drunk driver came over the bridge and hit him. He fell off his bike, flying over the side of the bridge and into the water. The water wasn't deep. It was barely 4 feet, but when they pulled him out, the coroner was puzzled. I know he must have drowned, but it almost appears that he was strangled. He had shown Mom the bruises, and though she said it sounded dreadful, I could see in her eyes that she knew. I was 12 when she took me aside and told me that I was the oldest now. Your younger siblings need you now more than ever. Never forget that it's up to us to keep an eye on them, to keep them safe from the Elgnarts before he strikes again. That's just a story, I blurted out before I could think better of it. My mom shook her head at me. If you believe that, then I'll be having this discussion with your younger sister soon. You know better. You watched it kill Gabby. You saw it when it tried to kill you. Believe in this, and be cautious in everything you do. But why? I asked. "Why does it follow us?" "It's always followed the members on my side of the family. It's what killed your grandfather, 2 of your aunts, and both of your uncles. It nearly killed your Aunt Stacy, but I stopped it. It's followed us since the old country, ever since your great-great-great-grandfather did something unforgivable." We were sitting in the living room after Sam's funeral, still dressed in our Sunday best, and it occurred to me that this was the same room Gabby and I were sitting in when we heard the ice cream truck. That seemed like 1,000,000 years ago now, not just 4, and I felt an odd sense of vertigo as I thought about it. Your thrice great-grandfather was a lumberman in Russia. He was respected. He was a pillar of the community, but the only thing he wanted was beyond his reach. He desired a woman who would not have him. He became desperate, so he went to speak with a bruja, a witch that lived on the outskirts of the village. He told the witch what he wanted, and she told him the price would be steep. He was a man of means, and he paid what she asked. She gave him potions and charms and spoke the words of mysticism, but none of it worked. The woman spurned his advances, and when he told the witch, she shook her head at him and said, "Then it's not meant to be. If your stars cannot be entangled, then they cannot. There's nothing to be done about it." He became irate, telling her that she would give him his money back if she couldn't get him what he wanted. She told him that could not be, that he had paid and taken his chances. Your great-great-great-grandfather became irate, and what he did next could not be taken back. He leapt across the table, knocking her crystals and baubles to the ground, and wrapped his fingers around her throat. He throttled her right there at her table, watching her face purpling, but the witch was not done yet. They say her lips never stopped moving, even as he strangled the life from her. And though he could not hear the words, he would remember them later. Elgnarts, Elgnarts, Elgnarts. She repeated them again and again, even as he strangled the life from her. He felt his own throat closing a little as the rage took him. When he finished, he let go of her and stepped back. He realized what he had done, and he sure was sorry, but there was no taking it back. Unknown to him, the witch had thrown her death curse on him, and it followed his bloodline for the rest of time. The Elgnarts follows us now, just waiting for the opportunity to squash us. It killed all but one of your great-great-grandfather's children, and your great-great-grandfather's children, and so on and so forth. It would have left only me, I suppose, but I saved your aunt, and have kept a close eye on her ever since. I told her husband about the legend, and now he watches her so I don't have to. That's why you have to help me watch your siblings, so it doesn't happen to them. And so I did. I watched over Nikki and Matthew like they were made of glass, and that's why they nearly made it to adulthood. Matthew was about 4 years younger than me, Nikki too, and it was strange to think of what they might get up to if given the opportunity. It didn't matter. I watched them like a hawk. I hovered over them ceaselessly, and though I think they resented it, they also understood. I stopped Matthew from choking on spaghetti when he was 9. I stopped Nikki from drowning in the kiddie pool when she was 11. I stopped Matthew from choking on a soda when he was 12. I stopped Nikki from choking on ice when she was 13. It was a full-time job, but thinking of Gabby made it easier. I had to save them, like I should have saved her, and it worked, until Nikki suddenly went off script. She wanted to go to the beach with her class in the 10th grade. Nikki, I don't think it's a good idea. I was 20 then, still living at home and watching after them. Nikki was 16 and Matthew was 14, and Dad had been dead for nearly 3 years. It was a heart attack. There had been a close call with Nikki, and she had nearly died after an accident with an allergic reaction to cigarette smoke. He had collapsed during it and never gotten back up again. After that, I was even more attentive, watching for Dad and me, and it seemed like just the chance that the Elgnarts had been looking for. Well, I'm tired of never doing anything fun. I want to live a little. I'll be fine. Don't worry so much. Well, what if I chaperone the trip? What if I... No, she said, but she said it gently. I have to be responsible for myself sometime, even if it's just for a little while. My mother and I tried to talk sense into her, but she wouldn't listen. She went on the trip, telling us that she would be fine, but I went anyway. I watched from binoculars from my car, keeping a close eye on her as she splashed and played. I was too slow to save her, though. Too far away. She washed up an hour after the riptide got her. And then it was just me and Matthew. Matthew almost made it. He was so close. 17 and on the cusp of graduation. He had become like Sam, careful in the extreme. He saw the writing on the wall, had seen the Elgnarts many times, more times than he could count, and intended to beat the odds. He went nowhere. He came straight home, and he seemed to be certain that if he could make it to adulthood, he might beat the odds. He was sure of it, and as his 18th birthday approached, I kept an extra close eye on him. He was never far from my sight. We went everywhere together, and Mom commended me for my determination. I'd failed Nikki. I couldn't fail Matt. In the end, I never had a chance. We were watching TV, something mindless, when Matt got up and went to the bathroom. I got up too, but he shook his head, saying that he'd only be gone for a second. He needed to pee. It wasn't life-threatening. He went to the hall bathroom, and a moment later, I heard the toilet flush. I heard the water come on. I heard it go off. Then I heard a thump that had me running right away. He was sprawled on the ground, clutching at his throat and gasping for air. "Elgnarts, Elgnarts, Elgnarts!" I cried, not wasting time looking for fingers as I acted quickly. Nothing happened. "Elgnarts, Elgnarts, Elgnarts!" I cried again. But still nothing. I called for Mom, but she was out back hanging laundry, and wouldn't discover that her youngest was dead until it was too late. I tried CPR, but his chest wouldn't rise. I checked for finger marks, but there were none. Nothing was squeezing his neck, I would later find out. What had happened was just bad luck. He'd slipped on the floor mat and hit his throat just right, so that his windpipe was crushed. It was a 1 in a million injury, but it didn't stop the family curse from being fulfilled. So I stood there and held his hand, being with him as he died. He was scared. God, he was scared, but I gave him all the love and all the support that I could pass on. After that, it was just Mom and I. But I've decided that it ends with me. I'm scheduled for a vasectomy next month. I do not intend to have children that I will then have to also watch die. Mom didn't understand. She was furious at first, but I think she gets it now. If I never procreate, then the curse ends with me. If I have to remain celibate or become a priest or something, then that's what I'll do. Either way, there will never be another target for the Elgnarts. And so, he will strangle out, as he has strangled out my bloodline. It seems the least I can do to honor the siblings that I couldn't save.
You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up. I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.